Hi, my name is Joan Vandermeet. I'm with Logitech, and this session is on best practices and tips and tricks for adding video collaboration to your meeting rooms. So who is already putting Skype room systems or Teams Skype in your meeting rooms? Good, okay, and who's already putting it on desktops? Not so many on desktops. Okay, so this is really focused on meeting rooms, but if you have any questions about best practices for desktop video collaboration, you can ask me after the session or come over to our booth. We have a lot of information about desktop collaboration as well. So to jump right in, so why video and why now? What's different from last year or the year before or the year before that? And what is changing is the workplace is changing. So the whole environment of workplaces is changing. Offices are moving to open floor plans, moving away from cubes and walled offices. And so instead of having a few hard wall dedicated, whoops, my audio went off. Instead of having a few hard wall dedicated rooms, we're now seeing video being put in a lot of more casual spaces that are often termed huddle rooms or collaboration rooms. You'll also hear the term ideation rooms. So we're seeing video going into places that in the past it just didn't go before. Also, video is less formal than it used to be. The office in general is less formal than it used to be, but in particular, video collaboration happens most of the time ad hoc now. Used to be not only did you have to calendar it, you had to schedule it, right? You had to actually get the IT person to schedule that meeting. A few years ago, we moved away from scheduled video and went to calendared video. Now we're going to completely ad hoc. You just walk into a meeting room, click a single button, and join the call. We're also moving from video being a silo unto itself, where you bought a purpose-built video solution from vendor X. Now video is embedded into multimodal, right? Teams. So Teams is not just a video collaboration software. Obviously, Teams is a UC software that also now is starting to add persistent communications in addition to real-time communications. So video becomes a feature in a multimodal communication application as opposed to a siloed application unto itself. And then the last two, obviously everything is moving to the cloud, and what that means is that to do large-scale video of the scale we're talking about now used to be cost prohibitive. You couldn't afford to put all that gear in your own data center, but now you can get it from the cloud. And we're also moving away from proprietary compute platforms in meeting rooms. So instead of buying a solution from a vendor who builds a purpose-built codec using really expensive chipsets and DSPs, you can now run it on a Windows PC, right? So whether that's a Microsoft Surface tablet or an Intel NUC or a Dell or an HP Slice, you can run great quality video calls, 1080p dual screen on a general purpose compute platform. So what that really has done is opened the door to really massive scale deployments. So the minimum requirements to get to massive scale, first of all, it has to be a solution that fits all room types. You can't just have a single size and say jam this in everything from a 3-person huddle room or war room all the way up to the boardroom. So you've got to have a solution that fits every room type. You've also got to have the same UI in every room. You can't be having one application that suits huddle rooms, another application that suits ideation rooms, and yet another application you're going to deploy in your large conference rooms and boardrooms. You really have to have the same UI in every room. It's got to be priced right. You can't spend 50 or 100 grand per room because that's obviously not going to scale to the kind of deployments we're talking about. And then lastly, you got to be able to deploy and manage these at scale. You can't have that old white glove, I'm going to call IT every time I have a problem. It's got to be something you can manage. So that is just the basic requirements. You got to check every single one of those boxes or you're not going to get to where you need to deploy this at scale. That, once you've checked all those boxes, you now have a whole new set of challenges. And I'm going to be focusing mostly on those new challenges. So first of all, ticking all the boxes. So Skype room system and now Teams room systems, you can check every box. So using a Skype room system, I'm showing Skype room system inside a Logitech Smart Dock. I'll fess up, we're not the only vendor who makes an enclosure for Skype room system. We just happen to be the best. But I'm showing it on Smart Dock. You can buy it on other, it is a Surface Pro tablet running Skype room system software inside of a Logitech enclosure. So that's your basic UI. That's the UI every user is going to see in every single room. What I'm then showing, going from right to left, are the different size audio and video, so camera and audio solutions to suit different room sizes. So starting with your small huddle rooms, or what you'll call a war room, we've got a product called Meetup that's perfect for that small room. Moving up to a slightly larger room, maybe with 6 chairs around the table, you can add an expansion mic to that basic Meetup huddle room camera. Moving right, we've got a solution that suits a mid-sized room called Rally that actually separates the camera and speaker and microphones into a modular system. Moving up even larger to our group system that has a kind of a classic center of table audio solution. And then moving up even larger to your boardroom and into like a classroom or multi-purpose room, we've got a modular solution that will span all the way up to a 7-mic solution with a beamforming 7-mic mesh. So we can basically take it all the way up almost to an auditorium. If you do have an auditorium and you need a classic drop ceiling mic, you can still use a Logitech camera and then use a Skype or Teams certified audio solution from a vendor like Shure or Biamp or somebody else's integrated AV audio solution. So basically, Skype Room System will take you from that 3-person huddle room all the way up to an auditorium. So we've checked every single box. These do have a uniform user interface. They are priced to deploy at scale. To give you some price points on there, that Meetup camera that I show, $899 at list. So $899, hang a screen on the wall. The Smart Dock with Skype Room System runs around the full Skype Room System, including the Surface Pro and the tablet, runs around $3,500. So for under $5,000, you've got a fully kitted out 1080p huddle room, and then the prices go up from there. But we're talking, you know, orders of magnitude less than what you would have paid 5 years ago for a 1080p video solution. So we've checked all the boxes for basic requirements, but now let's get into some of the challenges. So the first challenge, especially in small places. So where these video solutions are going in nowadays is in small rooms, not your traditional boardroom or even a mid-sized conference room. These are small rooms where the tables are often pushed up against the wall. They have anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 chairs around the table, and space on the table and space in the room is really limited. So best practices, put your camera, speakers, and mics, mount them all on the front of the wall. You don't need anything on that table. You don't want extra cables. You don't want mics. You don't want anything on the table other than your user interface. So other than the dock that's on the table that has their touchscreen UI, keep the table clean. They're going to bring their PCs. They're going to bring notes. They're going to bring coffee cups. Those tables are small. They often maybe even like just the size of a cafe table. So keep everything off the table. Don't try to make a mini version of a boardroom. Don't think you've got to have everything you'd have in a boardroom in a huddle space. So you know, just because you might have a big, huge like Surface Hub ideation system in a boardroom or in a larger ideation room doesn't mean you necessarily need it in a huddle room. So don't just try to say, I'm going to scale everything down and create a mini boardroom. It's a completely different room. It's an ad hoc room. People come in, they don't reserve it. They come in, they sit down, they have a meeting, and then they leave. And then don't overwhelm the user with too many options. Now, we all know that a lot of IT departments are doing a DIY solution where they're qualifying like a compute platform like an Intel NUC or an HP Slice, and then they just load up a bunch of apps on it. They'll put WebEx on, they'll put Skype on it, they'll put, you know, consumer Skype, right? They might put Google Hangouts or Zoom or BlueJeans, and then they expect the user to come in and figure out which one to launch. That's generally not a good solution. So don't give them too many options. Put a Skype room system, Teams room system in there. With the Logitech solution, we actually do have an ability that they can override and do what we call an AV bypass. So if they do need for like 10% of your meetings, those corner case meetings where you got to join a WebEx call or a Citrix GoToMeeting call, they can bring their own compute platform, plug in and bypass the Skype room system to use the screen and camera, but make that the exception, not the rule. So you want to set it up so that most of the time, 90% of the time, they come in, one-touch join, and those few corner cases, they can bring their own PC, plug in, and bypass the surface. Okay, so audio. So audio is a key component. In fact, it's more important than video. We all get excited about talking about high-resolution video and multiple screens and all of the things we can do on video, but if you can't hear it, of course, and you can't be heard on the far end, it's not a meeting, it's just a pantomime. So again, just as I said about table solution in the room, tailor your audio solution to the room. For a small room that seats up to 8 people, generally front of room audio is best. It's intuitive, they're looking at the screen, they want to hear the voices coming from the screen. That's where they expect voices. The human brain has spent millions of years evolving to look where the voices are coming from. So front of room speakers are almost always better. Sometimes you will want to put an expansion mic on the table to get greater audio pickup. Also to put a mute button close to where people are sitting. So if you need to drop additional mics on the table as shown in the illustration, go ahead and drop additional mics on the table. For large spaces, now moving from huddle rooms to large rooms like lecture halls or a corporate learning center, separating the mics from the speakers allows you to turn the speaker volume up higher without having reverb. So if you can get your mics farther from your speakers so that you can crank the volume so the people in the back of the room will still be able to hear, but the people on the far end of the call won't be getting reverb from your speakers and mics being too close. So again, if you're in a large room, put those mics farther from your speakers. And then lastly, know your mic range. Every mic out there is not made the same. Not even all of the Logitech mics are made the same. All of our mics have a different range that's specified. Know the mic range because all of the current state-of-the-art mics, Logitech and the other vendors, all have beamforming elements, and those beamforming elements have a certain range where they're effective. If you're dropping multiple mics in a room, you want to overlap those beamforming ranges so the beamforming elements can form a mesh. So you want to make sure that you're not dropping mics too far apart so that they aren't able to overlap each other and provide adequate coverage for your whole room. Avoid one size fits all. Just because the old school way is put a single conference phone in the middle of the table. That's how we used to do it, right? You just plopped the classic Polycom speakerphone right in the middle of the table, and voila, that was your audio. That is not sufficient for current rooms. It either is too big, meaning that the audio will be coming from behind people in a huddle room. They'll be actually hearing behind them and looking in front of them. So not a good solution for a huddle room. And in some rooms, it's too small. You need more than a single conference phone. And then last thing on audio has nothing to do with the technology. It's about your room setup. Avoid rooms. I know all your rooms have glass walls, right? Who doesn't have conference rooms with glass walls? Try to avoid too much glass. If you do have conference rooms with lots of glass, try to put some acoustic treatment somewhere else. Carpet, soft surfaces on walls. Try to avoid, in particular, try to avoid facing glass walls facing each other, where you just literally create an echo chamber where the audio just bounces back and forth. So anything you can do to avoid an echo chamber is going to help, regardless of how high-end a vendor, like whether you go to a $50,000 integrated audio solution, is still going to struggle in a four glass walls conference room. Lighting. So this is not even really about the technology, but lighting is super important. Again, if you can't see people, your call is not going to be good. Invest in window coverings. Almost every conference room has windows. Invest in some shades. Invest in shades that are adjustable because the light changes through the day. What's great light in a conference room in the morning is going to be horrible in a south-facing conferencing in the afternoon. For your in-room lighting, try some other lighting elements. Try other than just fluorescence aiming down. Try bouncing some lighting up at the walls and off the ceiling down to the faces. You're trying to light faces. Most office lighting is optimized to light the desk because you want to see something you're looking at. But we want to light people's faces. So think about how you can use light, up light, whether it's lamps aimed up and then bouncing off. Strive for even light. That might even mean that in a certain room where you have a dark corner and a brighter space, you put some blinds on and you lower the light level in the whole room. Cameras generally can deal better with even light, even if it's a little dim, than with highly changing light. Like your worst worst conference room are these ones that I'm showing here in the bottom, where you've either got backlight, so never, never, never aim a camera at a window. So if you've got a conference room and you've got a wall of windows, try to orient your conference room so the camera it's got its back to the windows, and the windows are behind it. And you go, well, shoot, I can't mount a screen and a camera on glass. I got windows behind me. What am I going to do? Buy a cart. There's a vendor called Heckler, Heckler. They're not associated with Logitech, other than they're a partner, so I'm not plugging my gear. Go buy a Heckler cart. There's a Heckler cart that's made specifically for Skype Room System. It's got a place to hang a screen. It's got a place for the dock. It's got a place for the Surface Pro Compute platform. It's got a place for the camera, for the audio to mount. So if you've got one of those rooms where your choice is either put the camera at the back of the room aiming towards windows, or flip it around and put the camera up by the windows aiming towards the wall, put your camera up by the window. And then lastly, select a camera that has really good light handling technology, and I will plug my own products. Logitech has been working with light handling technology since 2006. We patented a technology called Right Light in 2006. We've improved it steadily over the years. We're at 4th generation. Our latest camera supports what's called wide dynamic range, which means it can actually find people's faces and will adjust the light and color to optimize for faces. So if you're looking at somebody who's sitting, actually that's an example of a camera with and without Right Light technology. So that's Eric Tooley, our product marketing manager, using our new camera Rally on the top, and that's actually a competitor's camera. I won't tell you whose it is, but that's basically the same exact shot with and without the Right Light technology. Okay, and then camera and screen placement. So in general, you want to make sure you're thinking about the people on the far end of the call. What are they going to see? You don't want them looking down at people like they're God looking down from on high, nor do you want them looking up at people's chins or underneath their faces. So always attempt to place the camera at eye level. That might mean raising or lowering the screens in a given room. So if you are in also think about the seating. In one of the images here, oh, actually not in this image, but in one of our images I show a room where the tables are high. It's like a cafe table, and they're sitting on high stools. You're going to put the camera higher in that room than you would in a regular conference room where they're sitting around a conference room in chairs. So think about the eye height of the people when they're sitting. Except the one exception in that is if it is a standing ideation room. So if you're building out a room with like a Surface hub and you expect most of the collaboration to be done while people are standing, place your cameras higher. You don't want the camera sitting down here at their waist level. You want it up here at eye level. And then look for cameras. A lot of the newer cameras in the market, our own Rally and our own Meetup, can now recognize people and can automatically frame. So that basically means that when it'll see people in the room and it's going to frame them, it's going to crop out dead air in the room. It's also going to make sure that you're not only seeing like a half a person cut in half, it's going to frame their whole body. There are other vendors out there who have auto framing technology, so we're not the only one. But look for a camera with auto framing. Of course, all of the cameras now have remotes, so people can pick up the remote and they can pan and tilt the camera around. But it's amazing how users do not want to pick up remotes. They're not comfortable with them. They're worried they'll look like an idiot. They're worried they will move the camera in the wrong direction, so they just leave it. And even though they may know, they're like a spot at the end of the table, and they may know that, they just don't want to pick it up. So if you've got a camera that's got some computer vision built into it, you can actually solve that problem for them, and then the camera will frame them directly. A couple of things on multi-screen. If you're going to use, so in a huddle room in particular, I know everybody thinks conventional wisdom, 2 screens is always better, 2 is better than 1. Doesn't necessarily work that way. In a huddle room, space is really, really constrained. Oftentimes in a huddle room, you're better off putting the largest screen you can fit on the wall, and then just know that when they're sharing content, they're going to share real estate, the people real estate with the content. If you're using one screen, experiment with either making the screen a little higher and mounting the camera directly below it, or lowering the screen and mounting the camera above it. If you are going to use two screens, mounting the camera between the screens, whether you separate them a little bit, put the camera right in the middle, if they're this way, or stack your screens and put the camera in the middle of stacked screens. So basically, always you want to make sure you're really aware of where your camera is. And here's a couple of examples of some rooms that are not like your average conference room. So the one on the left here is, again, a classic small huddle room where the room is fatter than it is deep, so it's wider than deep. Really common to see huddle rooms like that. You want to look for a camera that is, again, you see how it's placed at eye level, and that camera, by the way, that meetup camera has a 120-degree field of view, so it's got a really, really wide angle, but it's optimized for shallow, so depth of field is not good on that camera. It's good to about 10, 12 feet. If you have a longer, skinnier room like that one on the top right, you don't want to use the meetup camera. You need, at that point, you need depth, not width. So you're going to want to go to a different camera. We're showing the group camera in that, and again showing two expansion mics at either end of the table. And then this one in the lower right is, I just put up there as an example of some of these new spaces. They aren't even a room. It's an open seating area that's been equipped for video. So this is a situation where we've taken literally just sort of a break area, put a camera on a credenza, hung a screen on the wall, and created sort of a casual ad hoc collaboration space. So that's quite possible now. At the price points these things are at, you can actually put video in places that you would never have even dreamed of doing it before. So if you have any questions, I definitely invite you to learn more. Come over by our booth. We're 8 and 11 at the far other end of the hall, or visit our website. One other thing I want to give a shout out to, on Wednesday at 2:15, Ilya Buchtin of Microsoft, he's product manager for Office 365, will be doing a session. I don't know which theater he's in, I'm sorry, I don't know where he is, but 2:15, the session is Intelligent Communication Devices for Office 365. He will be giving away 50 of our 4K Brio webcams. So go to Ilya's session, you'll learn more about devices for video enabling Office 365 and get the chance to win a $200 4K webcam. Thanks for coming.